It's amazing. Thank you for jumping in, Joe. How are you? How are you, Joe?
I'm really good. How are you, Chris?
I am not too bad. I have been subscriber yours since what, maybe video 2, 3, something like very early on in your journey. And
Yes.
I have to say, I have binge watched you in the last few days as well, just to sort of remind myself of things. And I think the thing that I get from your videos, which I would imagine a lot of people do when they're watching you, and by the way, everyone who's coming in, feel free to comment, ask questions, and welcome to what I'm appropriately calling tea time here. I've got
Anytime.
my drink and whatnot.
I've got the water.
No, God, no, I'm not having that. What people are getting from yourself, and I think this is really crucial, is this vibe of positivity. And I think that is probably something that is just jumping out of your videos. Um, and Hi, Ellie, from downstairs. There we go.
Hello, Mrs. Chris.
Hello. But there's something interesting because I've got a little list here, and this is where you then go, oh, God, like that. Right, okay.
Didn't know
And
there was any prep that we're supposed to do.
I'm thinking of all this positivity, yet I've got a little list to read out to you.
Oh,
Okay.
go on.
Sleep apnea. Okay. Raynaud syndrome, IBS, fibromyalgia, asthma, high blood pressure. And that's where I stopped because I thought if I keep going, I'm going to run out of room here. And it's amazing because if you was to take somebody who's got maybe one or two of those, especially me, I'd be down in the dumps all the time. So I'm just interested in like how you still come across as joyful and positive and everything that you are, despite these things that some people could say that had really put me in the dumps.
Do you know what it is, Chris? I
Go on,
think
tell me.
I think it comes natural. I think it comes natural, or maybe there's a touch of nurture where in the family we're always looking to the positives, always. So, for example, my sister, bless her heart, she's got multiple sclerosis. You will never hear her complaining about it. Never.
No,
So I
no.
think it's a family thing. But I people say that I radiate positivity, and I just find that if I think negative, everything comes down with negativity. And I think there's more energy being put into being negative than there is into being positive. So I am a bit of a lazy mare. So I'd rather use the energy that's the solution that's less energetic.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that I get from that is despite what's being thrown at you, goes for anyone, it's mindset. And I think mindset is
100%.
crucial. And I think, especially in a society where there could be argued, there is potentially a vibe of woe is me, I wish I had or I should have been like this.
Yeah.
It's then refreshing to have this mindset of, do you know what? This isn't going to stop me from living my life, being positive. Like you said, it was a family thing. Has it always been this way for you, or is it something you've learned?
I think it has always been this way, but I'm going to be very, very honest because we said we're going to be honest throughout today.
Please.
I think a lot of it comes from the community. I think before
Mm.
before I joined Mounjaro, I was watching Kieran's channel and he mentioned something and I said, you know what, Kieran? I do not recognise this fat person in front of me
Mm.
because I've always been a bunny lass. I've always been a bunny lass, but I've always been a strong bunny lass. And having all of these issues that are debilitating, I cannot make sense of it, so I don't recognise it. But literally, the moment I did my first video, I was like, well, I recognise her. That's who I
Mm.
recognise, that person who's positive. So I think without me actually doing the videos, I don't think I was aware that I was positive.
Oh, okay. So actually, you've got to be able to see a glimpse of yourself from your own videos, and maybe how other people perceive you by watching them back.
There was something my nephew said. God love my nephews. My nephews are both gorgeous. All the family's lovely. But my eldest nephew, I was like, oh, Lewis, I remember a time when I was attractive. And he went, Auntie Jane, you are attractive. I was like, what? Look at this minger. But it's like it's not about it's not outside, is it? It's the what you project. And I don't think I was remembering that before I started getting on the videos. But don't get me wrong, I am not Naomi Campbell. I think I made a joke of it in the last video. I do believe I'm Naomi Campbell, but I like the person that I see on the video because that's the person who I recognise. And I didn't see it in the mirror because obviously I'm not talking to myself in the mirror.
No, absolutely. And I think I've told you, well, I've said on videos before where I've used my old videos to kind of remind myself where I've got to, and to sort of remind yourself that, do you know what? This is the reason you do this, to kind of remind yourself of a journey, because all we ever say is that this is a journey,
Yes.
and it's going to be, isn't it?
I watched your videos today, your older ones that I'd not even seen because I think I joined you when you were on week one. So I remember
Mm,
watching the video where you was deciding what you was going to use and then
mm.
watching week one. And I was like, I don't recognise that, Chris. Look at it. As you say, there's the smile there, there's the twinkle in the eye, there's the humour. But I did not recognise the Chris from where you were at the start of your journey to now. And you and I both know we've got a long time on this journey. If we keep with this mindset, we're going to be skipping through it, aren't we?
Well, I think we're going to be eventually irritating to everybody with this sort of
Yeah.
positive attitude. I'm sick of these people saccharine all the way
Hilarious.
through. But are you putting that down to Mounjaro? Because this is ultimately why we're all here. This is the community. How much do you think Mounjaro's had an influence on that?
I think mine is more Colin.
Ah,
I think mine is more Colin the CPAP machine. Because
Colin. Do you know what? For those of you who may be watching this and going, Colin, this has been something that's followed you throughout. Colin, the CPAP machine, because this does actually go on to something that I'm going to speak to you about in a second, about this sleep apnea. But you feel that that's been a contributing. This machine has contributed to your outlook, to the way that you feel.
I think 100% because if it wasn't for Colin, I would not have made it to this live. In fact, I'd probably be asleep on the settee still because I was always falling asleep. I could not stay awake, and so I think the fact that I've had some sleep and my oxygen levels are coming back. But remember, I've been doing 1 meal a day intermittent fasting for like 2-3 years, and my weight was going up. I'm like, what? What is this? And when I saw my rheumatology consultant a year after she advised me to try intermittent fasting, and she says, you know what, Joe, you've still not been fully diagnosed yet. Until your body is ready to be well again, then nothing's going to work. And so my mum and my sister were saying, I don't know if it's worth you having, because at that time we were looking at bariatric surgery. I don't think it's
Oh
worth you
wow!
having that because you're already eating only little amounts.
Mm.
So it's not that. And I think the moment I started sleeping, so the cortisol levels were coming down, then I was on Mounjaro as well. Then it just feels miraculous. It's such a wonderful medication, and it's a tool because you and I both know. What did Jackie say in her video the other day? You don't just. I always try not to swear to my mum watches, but you can say it. You can say it, Chris.
I'm
I
not
will not.
saying a word because nothing terrible comes out of my mouth ever. But I think that if people want to know, okay, well, sleep apnea. I mean, not everyone's got it. You have obviously got it. You've got something that helps you. Before Colin, the CPAP machine, what does this look like? How does that affect you?
So for years, I've been complaining about putting on the weight, and everything was dry. My mouth was dry. Every time I spoke, I was coughing. and my mouth and my teeth, my tongue was getting stuck by my teeth, which is why I always add my subtitles, because for years I've just now developed a speech impediment because I was getting to my mouth, and didn't know what it was about. Sometimes I'd be waking up in the night and I'm thinking, oh, it's because I'm premenopausal. And then I was going to the loo a lot. And then I realised that no, actually, I'm waking up to breathe. And then my asthma nurse says, I think you should test this, the sleep apnea. She got me to fill that test in. And you can, I'll put a link in the afterwards. It's a link to the lungs, Asthma and Lung UK, and they've got the test that you say, well, do you fall asleep at the wheel? Because that's the big one. But I don't think I realised until the asthma nurse said, I think you should try the sleep study. And then I had the test, and they found out that I was stopping breathing 85 times an hour. And my heart would stop for up to 4 skips a beat. Four beats a skip. I don't know what's the word I'm trying to say.
I think when I looked at one of your early videos, I think you mentioned about how they noticed that it would stop for over 4 seconds.
That's the word.
In the night. And if you think about it, your sleep is so important because it's the time that the body regenerates. It's, I mean, you're depriving then yourself of oxygen, which then has profound. I mean, people who, I mean, if you think about it, what do we say? Margaret Thatcher used to get away with 3 hours sleep, 2 hours sleep a night. But
it would make it seem as if it's a gold standard to go for as little sleep as you can get.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess what you was experiencing then was you was experiencing minimal sleep, but then extended out over how many hours you were trying to sleep, weren't you? So you might out of those 8 hours, even if it was that, you probably were only sleeping an hour, 2 hours potentially.
And they say as well, because the body wakes up gasping for air. I'm so lucky because I haven't got Ellie. I haven't got a Mrs. Chris at home. Before I had Colin, there was no one. There was just me, Miss Mary, and so no one was there. Go, my God, you're not breathing. You're not breathing. But I have such a vivid imagination that I'd be having dreams, and it was my sister. My sister's my best friend as well.
Yeah.
And she was like, Joe, you need to wake up. That was happening in my dreams.
Wow.
My sister was doing that. Joe, you need to wake up. And I'd wake up.
What do you think about that? Where do you think that comes from?
Well, because she's a bossy man.
There we go. It's almost spiritual then, isn't it? You've got somebody who's trying to help you out in a certain way. Your body's struggling. It's really finding it difficult to get the option. This goes against exactly because you have your rhythmic breathing normally if you're asleep, and you've got somebody there who I'm pretty sure she's not having dreams of waking you up in the middle of the night. But no, that is amazing. But I just think, wow, I mean, if you're deprived of oxygen that much over the course of the night, times, I mean, how long do we think this has been going on for?
2 to 3 years, because literally the moment I got Colin was the moment that, and the mask is like that. It goes on you like that. You look like Bane from the Batman film. I've noticed I sleep with my mouth shut again, and it's just breathing through my nose. And this is a disgusting thing. I'm sorry to mention it, but my skin was getting really bad because as I was gasping, the saliva would catch, and then it would fall out, and then it'd all go all around my face, and then it'd be there all night, just ruminating. And then I'd end up with a huge amount of spots. I've got all these scars around here. Whereas now, as I say, I've got my Bane mask on, and there's nothing in there because I'm sleeping. My mouth is shut. So now I'm finding that my mouth is less dry, which again, positive. Colin, he's my saviour.
Here's your saviour. And just to go to the comments, we got TV there. So hi, TV. Hello, Mrs. Chris. There we go. Hey, hi. Just a reminder for people in the comments, if you do want to come in here and ask a question, by all means do so. We're not scary.
Yes.
Well, I am a bit, especially in the morning.
Give us some advice as well. Give us some of your advice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so Colin has come in, bless him. Okay, provided you with the oxygen. Um, and you say that obviously that seems to have had a knock-on effect with other areas of your life, just simply having more oxygen into your system and
Yes.
having more restful sleep. Um, have your family noticed anything with you at all?
Yes, they're all saying that I'm less croaky now. So I've always sound like Barbara Windsor anyway. So I've always had that sort of,
You know what? I
oh,
can hear it. I can
you know
hear
the new one that I'm loving? The new one that I'm loving, Macy Gray. So they're saying I sound like Macy Gray, but I'm not coughing with it, and I'm not having to keep gasping going for my water all the time.
it.
Because as I say, that's improved. Um, the other thing, and again, keeping everything positive but also honest. When I found out that my heart was stopping in the night, and I live on my own,
Mm,
so my family know already that I message in the WhatsApp group every day, and if I don't message, they need to look out for something. I
mm,
actually got all my papers together, and I put my funeral plans in place, and then I sent them to two of my bezies because again, my
mm,
sister's my bestest friend, but you know you've got loads of bezies, haven't you? Really, I've got three bezies, and I sent it to two of them, and I said, "This is what I want you to make sure happens in my funeral," and I didn't realise just how much that upset them. I'm getting thingy now. So no, let me get my fan. Let me get my fan. So,
anyway,
and in fact, this was one of the things I said, because you'll always see me with a fan, whatever size I am. I'm always hot. So
right.
I said that in my funeral, then everyone's got to get all of my fans because I've got over 30. Everyone's got to get a fan each. Um, but when I'd seen them about 2 months before, a month before, they said, Joe, you look like you were struggling to stay awake. You were looking like you were struggling to breathe. You were looking like you were struggling to sit up because I was on the settee like that and just struggling. And they said,
Mm,
it was really tough to see you like that. And then a month later, you're sending us your funeral plans. So, and there's none of that now. We're all going to die, but I don't feel like I'm going to die any minute.
mm. That must have been a scary position for you to be in as well, let alone how upset they would have got.
If I'm honest, I think I was more scared for Miss Mary. Who's going to look after her? I don't want. I don't want it to be like a train spotting situation where they find my body and the cat's eating half the face.
She's going to go for Colin instead. No, no, I can understand because what you don't want to do is you don't want to be put in a position where you're almost thrust with this idea of your own mortality, that it's fragile. And so for you to, oh, hey, Ellie's just said, oh, look after Miss Mary. There we go.
Oh,
You won't.
you've
And
got,
Will,
you've got
thank you so much for
look.
jumping. Oh, look, there we go with a little ring around the neck. Stop over grooming. Yeah. Yeah, was this was this what made you decide to go on Mounjaro, or was there other factors?
It was that. So I was talking with the asthma clinic nurse and
Mm,
saying, I'm still doing all of this stuff. I'm always doing intermittent fasting, and yet every time you weigh me, I'm getting weight. And she went, Joe, some of my clients are doing Mounjaro. And I thought,
mm,
she also referred me to the bariatric, what's it called? The bariatric service. But
mm,
she said, but maybe they could offer you Mounjaro. But by then I was like, well, no, you mentioned Mounjaro, that's what I'm going to get, and I'm going to have to get it privately. And I'm going to do it because if that's going to work, then that will work. And so I'm so glad it happened at the same time I got Colin, because the two of them, they've been like a double punch, knocking the fat out.
absolutely. And I think I think they used to, before this all came up, before Mounjaro came up. By the way, looks like you've got another offer for looking after Miss Mary there. There we go. So that's
That was once a bit.
very popular indeed. Bless
You've
her.
got
Yeah.
a
If you
bidding
want
war,
to
bless
escape
her.
Miss Mary, you've got places to go. All right. So just meow once for yes. There we go. People would eventually just come to the end point of, right, well, I've tried this, I've tried that, all I've got left is bariatric surgery. Okay. And I think this, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think this is now coming as let's try something else before we think about bariatric, because I think Mounjaro has come in pretty much at the right time for me, because I'm not going to lie, I was starting to think about, is this now something I'm going to have to do? Because I have tried so much over the years with varying degrees of success. I mean, what was your leading up to? What had you tried? What had worked or hadn't worked for you?
I ask you though, Chris, before I answer that,
Oh,
what different things did you do?
I did. God, we're going back in time, folks. By the way,
Yeah.
hello from Scotland. We've got a Scot watching. Hey, right. I had tried Atkins, so going back in the day. All
Oh
right,
yes.
on VHS
Yes.
cassette. Okay, watching the promo thing for it, where you only ate meat, basically. And it's not like the cave. Well, I suppose there's elements of it like the caveman diet that people are talking about now. But it was basically sausages, bacon, everything. You think, oh, great, I can have all this stuff. Then
Oh,
by day 3, you're like, I'm sick of meat all the time. And it didn't particularly work. I tried the Cambridge diet, which is where you have shakes and stuff like that. No, not for me. Slim Fast tried as well. Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers was the one that I probably did best on. But the problem I found with it, and this is where I'm going to sort of point this to you as well, my relationship with food links very much to emotion. And so I could do very well on a particular diet, and then naturally something would happen. Okay, something
yes.
disastrous, something horrendous, and that would be enough to throw me off. And then, of course, then I'll say, right, I'll get back on it. I'll get back on it.
Monday.
I'll get back on it. Oh wait, I've put on 2 stone. I'll get back on it. And then you find where you are. And yes, absolutely. In the messages, yeah, that was the keto. So, and it used to make your breath stink as well. Atkins did as well, made you horrible and yeah, that's rubbish. But with this, for me personally, I like this because it's the food noise that's gone.
Yeah.
And I've gone through even this week where I've been touring the nation. Okay,
Yes.
just the
You've been
sheer stress of driving, I would have just gorged. Okay, on whatever diet I was on, I would have still done it. Okay, whereas I didn't. So I didn't know if you've had similar where you've tried different diets and it didn't work, or if it did work, and obviously if it stopped, what was the reason it stopped?
Well, as I say, I've always been a bunny lass. So I've always been a UK size 16 to 20. And
Mm.
been very happy with that because I think I've also got a personality for a bunny lass. So I've been happy.
I'm here.
Everyone wants a hug from a bunny lass. No one's crying out for a hug from a skinny person. But if you're a little bit, a TV with a hen, she'll know this. Everyone wants to hug you, especially if you're a bit bonny. And so that's what I loved. So I was always go on these diets. Atkins was the one that was most successful. And if you know me, you now know my Atkins breath. It's just something you have to deal with. My peppermint tea cold brew is not doing it. But
No, absolutely.
everything else, you're so right. And for me, again, the positive mindset. Anytime I was going to treat myself, something had happened that was great. Let's get the Ben and Jerry's. Let's put an order in for. Oh, my favourite was salt and pepper chicken wings from the Chinese.
I was getting a
Oh
bit worried. I thought you were talking about Ben and Jerry's. I was going like salt and pepper. I was like, what's
yeah,
what's the flavour?
this is a new flavour that they're doing.
But yes, absolutely. And so you get to that mindset then, don't you? Of like, oh, sod it,
Yeah,
I'll do it. Yeah,
and then I would
absolutely.
always do the thing where you say, "I'll start again on Monday." So it could be Tuesday. You had this
Oh,
joyous
God.
moment. You're going to
Yeah.
wait a week to start. And that's the thing that I love about Mounjaro, especially you watch other people's journeys. If they've had a blip, it's a blip, but it's gone as literally as soon as it's happened. So if they've had a moment of gorging or eating the wrong thing, they've got over it. Was it Carrie? And Carrie's this week. she was saying that she had a blip, felt absolutely lousy, but it
Mm.
wasn't so much the guilt that was, because that was always a thing, wasn't it? Before, whenever we started before and we felt we did it, we had the guilt. It wasn't necessarily the
I'm
guilt, it was
such a
the,
loser. I can't
yeah.
do this.
And as you say, no wonder we were struggling. What does Alan Spicer say? If you don't celebrate your wins, no wonder you feel like a loser. And again,
Absolutely.
we've got all of these brilliant things from the community that we're now part of. So the
Speaking of
people
the
that we
community,
watch,
TV said that Mounjaro is used for so many downstream issues that are never mentioned. One thing, and as much as I'm going to delve into your ladies' worlds at the moment, I've watched two separate videos of people, of women who have been on Mounjaro, and I found this fascinating. Not something I don't go through, but where they had very irregular periods. It wasn't something that they had to go months without one and so on. Suddenly, they're now having them regular. And
yeah.
it's just like, obviously, I mean, it's a relatively new drug. They're now wondering if it can be linked with helping dementia as well. That seems to be something else that's coming out. So really, actually, whilst this has got the benefits of helping with weight loss, this could well be used for other things.
Well, that was the reason why I chose Mounjaro rather than what was the first, not Ozempic, the one beginning with S. Was it Sexander? I can't remember.
Okay.
But I chose Mounjaro because it was good for the kidneys because I've also got chronic kidney disease. And it's like, I'm not going
Hang
to
on a
take.
minute. Chronic
Oh, add it to the list. Add it
kidney
to the list.
disease. There we go. Right. Just had to
It's
list.
like, but this is exactly what TV Mother Hen says. There's other things like liver, non-fatty liver disease, and there's a better word for it now. I think steatoitis. I don't know. Somebody will tell me. I'm always forgetting my words. But it's supposed to be really, really good for that. And again, the Alzheimer's, there's the ease and talk of it being good for certainly for some of those cancers that you get because you're obese.
Oh, so was it like attacking the actual cancer cells, or is it more of a preventive kind of
I don't
thing?
know. We're still looking into this stuff so new. But if we can get rid of obesity, then you get rid of the cancers that are caused by obesity.
Well, Mrs. Chris, come have a look for us. Do the research for us. You're going to be
Use Mr.
the
Chris.
Jamie of Joe Rogan. Okay, go have a look. See if what it says about cancer for obese. If Manjaro helps with that. So, semaglutide, apparently, is what it
That's the one.
is. So we don't know yet, do we? I mean, they're still looking into this, and this goes back to one of the things that I think obviously Jackie was mentioning, and it is something that I haven't come across it, but I know a lot of people have. This hasn't been tested. No one knows what it's going to do to you. This is going to end up killing you, and this and the other. And I just think that we don't know enough yet about the positives, let alone the negative side of it. I mean, if this goes on to help with things like you said, Alzheimer's and so on, and to particular types of cancer, isn't it worth it? Is it not worth the risk?
I think it's two ways. So you mentioned before about those women who've been struggling with
Mm,
the menstruation cycles.
yeah.
Imagine that you've been trying to get pregnant for years. You've done the doses of IVF, and sadly they haven't worked. But suddenly, Mounjaro means that you're getting your periods back and they're becoming regular.
Hmm.
But at the same time, there's that concern about, well, do we want Mounjaro babies? Because it's not been tested yet. So I don't know about you guys. Whenever I do my reorder, it always asks me, are you feeling these side effects? Have you recently been trying or found out that you're pregnant? And I think there's something that they're going to want us to do
Mm,
once that happens. But you know what? If you are trying to get pregnant, and now you're finding that your periods are happening, I think the first thing you need to be doing is speaking to your healthcare provider and the
mhm.
pharmacist, and they will give you the advice. Because if your periods have started back again, maybe you can come off Mounjaro, catch pregnant, you're now pregnant, but you've not got Mounjaro in your system, then get back on it once you're finished.
Absolutely. So what's Ellie said? So Mounjaro typically leads to 15 to 25% body weight reduction, which can significantly lower obesity-related cancer risks. Research shows that losing just 5 to 10% of body weight can reduce cancer risk. So although that's not saying which particular cancers it's talking about, it's also, I mean, wow, even 5 to 10%. If you think about the numbers of people who could be at risk of it, to
Yeah.
take off 5 to 10%, that's mad.
Well, I was at I was at hospital today because add this to the list. I've always got something wrong with my heart, and my heart rate is just constantly high. So we're
Heart
we're
is
assessing,
knackered. There we go.
we're assessing whether I need to have a pacemaker or not, or if it's hormone related.
Oh,
They call it primary aldosteronism. If it's
mm,
that, that's perfect. I won't need anything other than a pill. But if not, I could be needing a pacemaker. But he says, but you know what, Joe? You've just lost 12 kilos already using Mounjaro. He says, the more weight you lose, your heart rate should naturally come down anyway. So again,
absolutely.
the amount of cardiovascular instances that could be removed because people are losing weight and getting healthier.
Mm. And then we go, then that has the knock-on effect of, is this going to save the NHS money? The NHS is basically, because I had a little bit of a look, there's not exact figures, but Sky News reports that they believe, from certain figures, that 500,000 people in the UK are using Mounjaro privately, like we are. Is this feasible in the NHS? Do you think this is something that they could roll out?
100%. You know, you did a video a couple of weeks ago. I think it was your live, and you was talking about it. And I put something in the comments, because I always get access to the NICE guidelines, but the NICE newsletter that they send out. Obesity is definitely now considered a disease according to the NHS, and it's costing the NHS just obesity alone £11 billion a year.
Ooh.
So my medication, I've got all of those things, haven't I? But
Mm.
just two of my medications cost more than what the Mounjaro is. So not what we pay for it privately. The NHS was paying £98 for each dose, which is a huge amount.
Mm.
But I've got 4 medications for hypertension, and 2 of those are more than £98. So imagine how much money the NHS would actually save if obesity was out of the equation. So I
Because if
remember
we
getting
think about it, if you think of the number of things, the number of symptoms or illnesses or diseases that are related to obesity, I mean, the numbers of people who have, even if you don't look at like life-threatening, even if you think about physios related, so like problems with spines and so on like that, the costings of that is astronomical, astronomical. Um, and yet there does seem to be a reluctance to get this sort of approved.
right, no, that's the media telling you. So
Oh,
remember,
oh,
it's all changed.
pesky
It's all
media,
changed.
pesky media.
Right now, the NICE guidelines, and this is for the UK folk, and again, it's mainly NHS England, so it might be different in Scotland and Wales, and in Northern Ireland. But for NHS England, they've now approved that from June the 1st, local primary care can issue out, and pharmacists can issue out Mounjaro to people if they've got 3 tiers. The third tier is the tier that you and I would be in, where we're over a BMI of 40 and we have a comorbidity. So we would
So
be able to get it.
what would that entail? What would that include?
So including things like our hypertension, your psoriatic arthritis, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes in there, if you've got respiratory instances, so the things that could kill you.
Mm,
So, and sadly, a lot of us who are, I mean, maybe if you on the lower level of, because obese is obese. If you're
mm,
on the lower level obesity, you may not have those things yet, but your doctor might already be starting asking you to keep coming in now for repeat hypertension checks. So it's that sort of thing. Things like enlarged prostate is really linked to obesity and metabolic disorders as well. And you don't have to be a bonny lass. Well, you
Mm.
wouldn't be a lass for a start, a bonny lad. But you could get problems with your prostate, and when you're still at a lower weight, but you would be considered obese. So it's those sort of things. So what's happening now is my doctors have been told that the bariatric surgery team can't do anything about Mounjaro, but literally the moment they get confirmation from their trust and that the primary care team are ready to go in Nottingham, they're going to give me a call and I'm going to get it on prescription. So
Fantastic.
it's amazing, isn't it? So
It is.
I think it's definitely worth you getting in touch with your healthcare provider, especially your GPs if you're in the UK, letting them know that this is something that you're already on, and
Mhm.
it's something that is helping you, but it's something that is costing you a fortune. And then, as you say, just see if they could put you on the list. Ultimately, by year three, they're going to be giving Mounjaro out to the tier ones, and the tier ones are those people who are um, obese and at risk of, or people that are on, PCOS, those
Mm.
sort of people, they're not morbidly obese or anything, but they're going to be getting it in 3 years' time. So that's the nice guidelines. It's approved
So why this narrative then? Why this spin about the NHS reluctant to do it?
because it's the newspapers. They've got their own agenda. I mean, again, if we look at the fact that they're saying, "Oh, it's awful that those people that are out of work might get it." How much money are the people that are out of work through health instances? How much are they costing the economy through universal credit, through the benefits that are given out? No one is sitting there on their arse. Sorry, oh mom, sorry, on their arse. No one's sitting on their arse excited about being overweight for the rest of their life, are they?
Absolutely not. And I think what this does is this could potentially put people off even applying for it, because if the media are saying the NHS aren't interested, they're not interested, and they're thinking to themselves, "Well, I haven't got money for private," and it's going to stop them. Scotland won't issue Mounjaro unless you have diabetes with core morbidities. Scotland won't go ahead within the NHS. They say it's too expensive to treat people with obesity.
Wow. As you say, I know this was something that only came in June the 1st, so this week. Um, but I think maybe Scotland will just need to see the difference in spending that happens in the NHS England, and hopefully they come on board with it. Because as I say, if you want any more than two medication um, that is paid, and even I mean, as I say, you and I were on medication. I paid through mine with the annual certificate. So I get a lot of discount on that. But if you want benefits, you don't pay for it at all, do you? So as you
No,
say, and even if you were on it, then that medication that cost the NHS £98, you only pay £9.90 for it. So it's that the media may be thinking, oh God, this is a terrible idea. But look at it the other way. How much money the NHS are paying while you're only paying £9.90?
it seems to me that the media seem to want to focus purely on the crisis rather than a solution. Um,
Always.
because
That's
the
what's happened
crisis
with
is
me.
what gets viewers, it gets the sales, and yet here is something. I mean, I've seen it before where they'll highlight the issue of Mounjaro, they'll open up with this sort of idea of it's being you, people are buying this, and then they'll speak to the one person who thinks it's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Apparently, there's 500,000 people who think it's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Reaping the
Um,
benefits.
one thing that people are put off about it, um, and I'm interested to hear from you about it, is this idea of side effects that come with it, because from the get go, they make it very clear from you there could be side effects, and they range from this all the way to that, and you can have a combination of, or if all of them in one go.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you though? Is it any negative side effects for you?
I've had three separate incidences, and I know everything was because of the food that I ate or the way that I ate.
So
There was
it's your
nothing.
fault.
It was my fault. Yeah, 100%. But I think I'm one of the lucky ones. But also, I think I'm lucky because for years, because of the IBS, I control IBS by not eating foods that set it off. And they're the
Mhm.
foods that are high in fructose, high in artificial sweeteners, high in sugars even, and that starchy foods. So that's already been cut out of my system anyway. So imagine the first day. I mean, the first day I had my meal after having the first injection, it was a meal that I would normally have anyway, which was probably a tuna. Oh my goodness, I'm salivating at the idea of my tuna salad sandwich. Not with salad, it was tuna salad. I've got it in a bowl. I love it.
Yeah.
But I bet you I had that, and so that wasn't any different from what I normally ate. But if you're normally eating uh, sausage and mash with peas,
Mm.
and sausage and mash with peas, that's entirely healthy. But there's a lot of starch in that, and then there's a lot of there's a lot of fructose in peas, isn't there? And then if let's
Mhm.
say Ginster's pie with it as well, then suddenly you're
We're
into
going to town here. I like the sound of this. Keep going. I'm getting aroused. Right, keep going.
celebrating with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think what people are getting more educated in is not just what food they're having, but what's in the food that they're having as well. And I think that's where recognition of carbohydrates, the starches and such, fats. And I think also people are kind of also coming to the idea of realizing actually, do you know what? Some fat is good and it is
Oh
actually good for the
yes,
body.
yeah,
Um, because I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know where that originally came from, but this idea of fat free, no fat whatsoever, but then they replace it with things. And then it's usually the replacement is worse than the actual fat that you would have had in the first place.
yeah. My sister, she works in primary healthcare, and they're always talking to their clients about the risks of fat-free or diet stuff. Um, and even things like Hellman's mayonnaise, again, I'm salivating. But that is so much better for you than light. And anyone telling you different, you need to speak to your healthcare provider. But one thing I find as well, in fact, this was an interesting thing. It happened with my sister. My sister's never been a bunny lass, but the moment once she become unwell, she became painfully thin. And 6 months later, she had a problem with a gallstone. But
Oh,
so she was having gallstone problems, which then meant stones were in there already, and ultimately she needs to have the gallbladder removed. Um, but what I've always done ever since the days of Atkins is full fat mayo, butter, eggs, extra mature cheddar cheese. A little bit goes a long way, but in terms of those dietary fats, nuts, macadamia nuts. Oh my god, that's a gift from the gods, isn't it?
absolutely. Myself and Mrs. Chris, right, are a fan of pistachios.
Oh,
Pistachios are oh beautiful, beautiful. Chef's kiss all day long.
now do you
Salt
know?
bread.
Well, as you say, if you try to have the ones that are, without the salt, or just rub the salt off, you know, but that is good for that is good for your gallbladder, because your gallbladder
Oh,
always has bile in its system, always has it, and its purpose is every time you eat, it expects you to be having some sort of dietary fat. So when it
mm.
has dietary fat, then the bile in there sorts out the dietary fat. But if you're not having dietary fat, that liquid that is bile becomes more thickened, and then it starts to crystallize, turns into stones.
Wow.
So you need to be eating dietary fats a little, but a little
Mm.
goes a long way.
It does. And one thing that I sort of discovered recently, just because of my pure ignorance to it, was for all of my life, I've had semi skimmed milk. Semi skimmed,
Ah,
semi skimmed. Until I read something, and then this is where it's really going to infuriate me, where I read somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, that actually it's not just a case of because Dum Dum here thought it was just a case of they just remove some fat from it and then it makes it healthier. No, they then replace it with other things.
yes.
So for anyone who's watching this, and I'm not saying follow my lead in this, I have done my journey so far with my weight loss on whole fat milk, and it's not made the difference whatsoever.
So, as you said, by saying it's not made the difference, you were still losing a lot of weight, aren't you?
Absolutely. I'm not saying I'm necking gallons of whole fat milk. I'm still using it sort of sparingly. But if you think, well, the only way I can go ahead is having skimmed milk and this, that, and the other, and I don't know. I think people come to a point where you've got to think to yourself, what's better for my body? Is it going to be a fat that my body could probably well use, especially if I'm not eating as much as I would do normally? Or do I want to pump it full of whatever additive that who knows what it
Yeah.
is and where it was made and what it's come from and so on. And that was really a personal choice for me. And I did come onto Mounjaro and think to myself, this is going to backfire because this I'm going to lose no weight, and it's going to be because I'm having this whole fat milk. Doesn't seem to be the case.
Brilliant.
So whilst I'm not saying go out and just eat lard and expect the weight loss, I think there's, like you said before, there's been too much of an emphasis on fat free, fat free, fat free. And I think if you're still allowing yourself some fat, as long as it's a measured amount, your body's going to use it, but use it in the right way.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And as you say, I will never preach to anyone about what they should or shouldn't eat. But listen to your body. If your body is having really bad sulfur burps, and it's because you've been having a McDonald's or a McFlurry or even protein shakes. Even protein shakes, they're full of sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols set my IBS off something terrible. So I don't go anywhere near them. So if you listen to your body and all of these things are happening to your body, there's a way that you can maybe try cutting it out and see if it still happens.
How
And then, as you
difficult is
said,
shopping then, Joe, when it comes to food shopping?
what was that? Sorry.
How difficult is food shopping then for you?
Oh, you know what's worse? People trying to take me out for something to eat.
Don't
I
worry.
have to sit there with green salad, a green salad, and an extra portion of black olives, or the olives that they have, that and a water. And then you look at me, and I'm 25 stone. I'm now 22 and a half. But you look at me and you think that girl can eat anything.
No, I mean the thing is, it's hard enough. I mean, I can imagine somebody who's vegan or something like that having to really scour through all the ingredients to make sure there isn't something in there. You've kind of got to do the same. You've got to kind of look through and go, oh no. So what is it you're looking for when so let's say it's a new food in the grocery store or something like that. What is it on the ingredients list you're looking out for?
Almost certainly now I don't eat anything that's packaged because it's just not worth it. The
Hmm.
worst thing for me was when I found out things like jerk seasoning had hidden onion and garlic salts in there, or celery salts. They would set me off. So now I have to make my own. I have to make my own spices with no onion or garlic.
How does that work?
It struggles, but I've found a recipe. I shared it a couple of days. I think TV saw it. TV Mother Hen. I don't know if she's tried it yet, but I've got to the stage now where, because I can't have onion and garlic, then I'm not missing it anymore. So it's the same with
Is that phosphorus? The phosphorus in it that's causing it, or is it something else within the?
the ones that I follow are FODMAPs, and it's oligosaccharides. So there's So like this gluten-free bread.
Mm,
It may
mm.
not have gluten in it, but also they've removed the fructan, and it's the fructan that sets me off. So it's more than gluten that sets me off.
So what do you miss the most?
Jerk chicken. No, Ben and Jerry's, because I can't have lactose, so I can't have milk.
And they don't do a lacto-free version of it?
They do a soya one, but soya is just as bad. Soya is worse for me. I will be on the toilet for days with soya.
I've got 4 questions. So I've got 4 questions, and I'm going to call these the Fantastic Four.
Oh,
Okay, and these are going to be the 4 that I'm going to ask everyone that I'm going to speak to. Okay, what is a Walter from
what
TV
is a
there?
what?
TV's just written, what is a Walter?
A Walter. It's a good old UK accent, isn't it? Water every Yorker.
Walter. Yeah.
Water. What do you guys say? Water?
Water.
Aqua.
Water. Okay, we don't have T's in our language. We just have water in it, mate. So like I said, these are going to be the 4 questions, and I think these are important for everyone to hear. So the first one I want to ask you, and you've been a big proponent of this, advocate of this all the way through, this idea of non-scale victories. Okay, so ultimately, it's not focusing on the numbers, because I think, if you focus in on the numbers, you could send yourself mad. So you need to find inspiration and positivity from elsewhere. So since you've been on Mounjaro, you've talked about a lot of non-scale victories that you've had. What's been your best one so far?
It's a toss-up between 2. So Harry and I were chatting earlier on about my jumpsuit. I was able to fit into a jumpsuit the other day, and Emma had said in the chat, she says, "Joe, you have to remember that there's not going to be long before that's going to be too big for you." So, oh my God! So I wore it today at the hospital and walked like I was a queen, like. No one knew me there, but I felt amazing. I'm still 22 and a half stone, but I felt
Who's
like the
this mad
business.
woman? She's clearly going to be committed, isn't she? There she goes. She's like, look at me, look at me.
Michael was there. We were like,
Right,
wait,
get out of my way. I'm coming through. So you would say the
Oh no,
jumpsuit and
I think the most important one is being able to stand. And it
yes,
sounds
yeah.
terrible,
So tell
but
me
I
about
think
that then.
my health was that bad that I struggled to stand up straight because I couldn't support myself up straight. Now I can stand up straight. Now I do that thing where you hold your core. Hold your core whilst you're washing the pots. I know. I feel amazing. I feel like I'm in the Olympics, sitting there, standing there, holding my core.
Yeah. So pull it in, pull it in. Because I'm assuming then that just wasn't an option for you. Not the core, but I mean simply the standing.
Yeah, and again, people can always because you say fat. Just lose, eat less, move more. I can't stand.
So just lift Miss Mary up and down a few times, and there we go. Absolutely. So that in itself, because if you think about it, the more you're able to do things, the more you're actually going to be physical, you're going to be active, you're going to be burning off more calories anyway. So my second question then is, what surprised you the most so far since being on Manjaro?
The community. I I feel like I've got so many new friends, so many people that they're looking out for each other, and we know everyone's. And I think your community is my community. My community is Carrie's community because we're all following the same group of people, but we're all celebrating each other's non-scale victories. We're also celebrating people's successes, but we're also supporting each other when things are getting a little bit, if we're feeling a bit low or we're having sort of issues, or we just need some advice. And
Yeah, because I'll tell you for why. When I mean, this might have been just a local thing, but things like they're not Slim Fast, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, there seems to be a little bit of a, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like a community as such. It's almost like everyone's against each other, like their own personal sort of vendetta against. No, no, I'm doing this, and you're only doing that.
didn't you hear Stephanie? She mentioned that she was using Mounjaro, but she was doing Slimming World while she was doing Mounjaro, and she's now got to the stage where she doesn't feel like she can go to the things anymore because people are looking at her like she's a cheat. Because
Mm,
again, for me is to see who gets slimmer of the week, or
mhm.
and it's so sad. you don't think the person who's got diabetes and taking their medication and while still on Slimming World is a cheat. There's no concept of anyone in the community even thinking about which eats, because we all know how hard we've tried. Everyone who is
Yeah.
overweight has tried and tried some more.
And isn't there always the 4 or 5 people there who are there, and I don't know why they're there? Because why are you losing weight?
Well, again, I think we've got to look at it from a different perspective, because you
Mm,
and I are on the bigger set, but we've also
mm,
got we've got medical problems with it.
absolutely, yeah.
Also, there are people that are tiny who maybe they can't even get IVF treatment until they hit a level
Mm,
of on BMI. So maybe
mm,
that's what their journey's for. So anyone who's currently obese, which
mm.
is only what is it, £10 more than the highest level
Yes, I
that
believe
they're
so.
on?
Yeah, there isn't a large sort of gap there between
Yeah.
the two. So yeah.
Until they get into their normal levels, then sometimes they're excluded from some medical things that could support them.
Hmm. Do you think the community's come about because we are the 500,000 guinea pigs?
I don't know if we're guinea pigs or lemons. Are we all heading off that cliff together?
Because the thing is,
Skipping
if you
along.
think about it, this is a big. If they wanted to have done a run a trial, the data that they could get from this, from 500,000 people doing it.
Yes.
So almost we're in the kind of in the unknown. We've all found ourselves in this. Well, we don't actually know because it's not been rolled out long enough for everyone to know. So almost we're kind of trialing this all together.
Was it Neil said on his video today that his GP said they've got not enough information to support them with the problems that he's currently got. Says his pharmacist has got more, but he's actually finding more information from the community. But I think the other thing is that the community back it up. We don't just do that thing where, that thing where you used to find out something because you heard it in the pub. The community
Mm.
actually backs it up with what they're saying by saying, look at this. This is what I've got. This is what we've found. This is all clinical. And they're still building on it, as you say, because we are guinea pigs. But we're very happy to share.
Absolutely, and I think because we're all starting off at a relatively, I mean, what the longest person who's on it that I'm aware of is what 2 years potentially. I mean, you might
Yes.
know more than that. So we're all kind of starting off at the same point. So that's why people are sharing tips and all that. Oh, have you tried doing this? Have you tried doing that? Instead of like the person who's been on, I don't know, Weight Watch or something for like 12 years and has gone and then talking to someone who's only just starting.
Yes.
So yeah, this is a nice question. I always will want to know the answer to this, other than the fact that we're apparently both informative with the comedy aspect, according to Rimmel
I
Wallhurst.
think
I
your
love that.
comedy is more
Fantastic.
successful than mine.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you reach your target weight?
I'm going out dancing. I'm going out I'm going to put my glad rags on. I'm going to make a new. I'm going to put new.
Michael, Colin with you.
Colin. Poor Michael won't need to make it anymore. She's already put her gain aside. So if you say poor Michael is not going to make it, I might even make a wig especially for my night out. I'm going off
And
dancing.
what doing this will mean? What will that mean to you?
What was that mean? Sorry.
The being able to go out dancing. That what will that mean to you?
Life is back, because I've been housebound for like 3 or 4 years. The idea of going out dancing. Can I ask you that question then, Chris? Because it's such a lovely question. What is it you're going to do?
I'm going to gorge myself silly on everything and start again because I enjoyed it so much first time round. I think um,
Terrible.
I think being able to do things like going swimming without worrying, or wearing a t-shirt or something like that, and just feeling normal. I think
Yes,
something as simple as, or going on holiday and then just enjoying everything like the swimming pool or the beach, or without feeling like, no, I've got to cover up and
totally.
all that. That
Yeah,
would be mine. And
that's a
the fourth
beautiful one,
question that I
Chris.
want to ask you, this is something that I think these live streams that I'm going to do, I'm hoping people are going to get a lot from it. So, any advice for someone who is considering going on to Mounjaro or has only just started? What sort of advice would you pass on?
If you're considering it, I think definitely, if you get, I would say speak to your pharmacist, or speak to your healthcare provider. There are some people who won't get through the checks, but there's a real reason why they won't get through the checks. So things like if you've got thyroid issues or pancreatitis, you know, so don't lie about those things because, as you say, this is something that's going to protect your life. But it's the best thing. It is medication, and it's the idea of you any medication that you're currently on. If somebody told you that there's going to take all that away from you right now, you'd be devastated. And I think that's how I would feel now about Manjaro because of the food noise. And that's anyone who's new who just started it. Have you suddenly realised that you've got all this capacity to think about stuff because you're not thinking about food anymore?
Absolutely. Joe, thank you ever so much for being my very first person on, shall we say, Tea Time with Chris at
So
Wiseman Jaro.
welcome.
Thank you ever so much for jumping in. Everyone in the comments, whoever's watching after this, please continue to comment if you've watched it. Please follow Joe. She is doing amazing stuff with her videos, and I thoroughly enjoy them, Joe.
You
Um,
too, Grace.
you,
Yours just make me laugh.
but yeah. So, if you are watching this and you are interested in doing what Joe has done and talking about your journey, then please feel free to email me. You can find the email address on my channel. They did used to do. We had a discussion about this. They did used to do direct messaging. That seems to have gone. I don't know where that went. But please, thank you ever so much for jumping in and for your comments as well. And anyway, look after yourselves and be good. Leave the
Take
kids
care,
alone. It's
folks.
scary. Bye bye.
Bye.